3 Irwine.
Welcome back to Caribbean Lifestyle TV. Having a lively conversation here with the publisher of Carib World News Network and the convener of Carib ID. And one thing you know for sure is that you're going to get it from, as they say, the horse's mouth, but from this beautiful lady's mouth. Felicia, the Caribbean exists today because of tourism, right? And we see what is happening now with the whole financial markets. The mainstay in the United States is going through challenges. And we see Caribbean tourism now probably taking a tailspin from all of this. But before we even get there, tell us from your perspective, from a journalistic perspective, how you see Caribbean tourism today, how it is marketed, the response from the community, and the support even to entities like yourselves who are out there at the forefront on getting the message out. What has been the response there?
Well, I'm going to answer it like this. I think it's, if you look at the Republican Party and the way that they campaigned in the past election, and you compare it to how the Caribbean tourism pretty much markets itself, I think you'd see the similarities. Why do I say that? Because they both see America as pretty much a majority Caucasian. They're both going after that same sort of group because to them, as to the Republicans, nothing exists beyond that group. So the new emerging markets that everyone else sees is not seen by the Republican Party, as it's not seen by the tourist groups. And so you see the hit that the tourism, the countries now are taking because of the meltdown and the breakdown of Wall Street, because those rich, white guys are gone. They don't have the money now to fly to the Caribbean every weekend. And so they have no fallback plan because they haven't prepared for this. Additionally, in terms of not even targeting the emerging markets, and we're not just talking about the Caribbean diaspora, because we keep beating that horse in the mouth every time. It's not just the diaspora. It's the emerging markets. It's the Hispanic market. It's the Asian market. It's the African American market. These are huge markets with a lot of spending power that these countries and their officials do not see at all.
Because many times these countries are being advised by PR agencies that are just focused again on what you mentioned about mainstream.
Exactly. And why? Because it's the mental mindset. It's sort of mental slavery of a lot of these old boys who have these positions. You
have some old girls in it too.
Well, they're all old, pretty much, I think. So they have that old, their old mindset, it's that slavery mindset where white is always better than your own. So there is, and I've been around these tourism people for a lot of years, and I go to their events and hang around them, and I see there is a sort of contempt for their own. Mm-hmm. There is this arrogance and this sort of, I'm better than you because I hang out with these, people, these white people who are, in these positions. So, how dare you tell me how I should market or what is this new market than this niche market that you're talking about? I think that is the arrogance, and unfortunately it is the people of the region who are going to feel this backlash. And we've seen it starting. All the job losses, Sandals, Atlantis, Wyndham. It's not the ministers, it's not the officials who are getting their jobs. St. Lucia is coming down with thousands of people who could lose their job. The regular people, the taxpayers, whose dollars they take to pay these millions, and it's millions, to white firms here who don't give a damn about the Caribbean. Should a hurricane hit tomorrow and all these countries blow over, you're not going to see these leaders running to these companies and saying, give us some money. They're coming to us, right, in the diaspora. Yet we're not good enough for them to spend any money with. We're not good enough for them to actually do any sort of marketing promotion. I mean, it's such a no-brainer when you look at what they're doing with millions. If they would take just a fraction of that money and spend it with the Caribbean diaspora media or the new media on a whole, immigrant media, I mean, the difference in terms of the response rate would be a lot more. But still, I think when you talk about tourism, they still see the tourist as the white man or woman who comes to the shores, and everybody is supposed to be subservient and say yes sir and no ma'am, and really just like you had the Pulitzer Prize winning author condemn the whole tourism and how subservient it is. It's really that attitude in their minds that it's always better. And then you look at the whole emergence of the digital marketing and this whole new economy, and they're not ready for that. You look at any tourist board today. Jamaica just spent millions of dollars doing their whole website over. They don't have a video download option, a video sharing. They have no social networking.
And I guarantee that this was probably from advice from their advisors
overseas. Of course. I mean, we look at the agencies that they're engaging. These are last century agencies, people who don't have anything to do with new technology. They don't know what's going on. They're just accustomed to doing the regular, usual mainstream media buy. You engage the tourism officials and ask them, how are you measuring the millions of dollars that you're spending? What is your return on investment? They can't answer. They don't have a database to show you, well, these are the people who come to our country. These are the people who we can now respond back to. We have a communication with them. We know they like, skiing, or they like, water polo. We know what their needs are. So now we can package something for them to come back and do that. They don't have any of this data. And yet they're spending millions. I mean, you look at Bahamas, in 1 year they spent about $20 million US. What do they have to show for it? Bahamas is in such a precarious situation. So it's that sort of mindset that gets you really disgusted. But then you realize that there are people around you who are not even asking these questions. They're just too happy to go on these press trips and, be happy that they're part of the, the inner circle that gets to go to all these islands and be, feted and treated like, that they're somebody. And then at the end of the day, there is just utmost contempt because you don't see a dime. You don't see a dime being spent in any of the ethnic media across the country. And this is, it's just mind-boggling to me because, I walk a thin line between the journalism and also promotions. And so we work with the Air Jamaica Jazz Fest a lot, now the Jamaica Jazz and Blues. And you see the response that you get, and Turnkey Promotions, to their credit, recognizes the strength of the diaspora because for year after year, they keep pushing the promotion in the diaspora. And we see promotions that go all across the country, Virginia, South Florida, Chicago, all over the country, and you realize the impact that our people have because they get so excited about everything. They're so loyal to Jamaica.
Yeah, the brand is popular.
And it's ridiculous that the JTB itself doesn't see that.
Early on this year, Caribbean Tourism Organization had a conference in Washington. And I think they had as their guest speaker, and I say this with a smirk now, but they had as our guest speaker, the former governor,
Federal
Reserve Chairman, Mr. Greenspan. And I think to our credit was that we needed somebody with a name to pull. But then he's also credited with as being the author of what we are experiencing today. What did Caribbean tourism really benefit from such a grand presentation in Washington? Because as you know, they moved Tourism Week from New York, where it's a winner, and you took it to Washington because you want publicity in the middle of a presidential race. Tell us.
Well, I was fortunately there, so I saw it firsthand. It was really a disaster, and they admitted that it was really, beyond what.
And this is after spending several thousands of dollars.
Yeah, right? Thousands of dollars, and it went for over a few days. It went, this huge building was rented. Everything. Alan Greenspan alone, I think, he charges about $100,000 per speech.
I would imagine so.
So, I mean, what did he get out of that? He just came in and pretty much had like a 15-minute conversation with this guy that really, you got really nothing out of it. And it was surprising that after I asked the Secretary General at the time, Vincent Vanderpool, what did you think about, the presentation? Why is, he said, I think that we've learned a lot. And this was, quoting him, we've learned a lot.
As how not to do this thing again, right?
Exactly. It was like, we learned a lot from him. And I think our stakeholders
how not to do, not how to do.
Well, I don't know, but he said they learned, about how they can really maximize what they've gotten.
Okay.
Greenspan was just, really his usual Greenspan self, boring as ever. But you know, he was very excited.
Uninspiring, Ms. Persaud?
He was very boring. He was just blah. And,
uninspiring?
He gave nothing really. He was just, he was just like you and I talking here. This was it. He didn't like get up there and give a speech that was, you know, that gives some points.
Yeah, well, it's a Caribbean way of probably accepting a speech, I mean, you pay a lot of money for. Watching Caribbean Lifestyle TV, my special guest, Felicia Persaud, publisher, Carib World News Network, convener, Carib ID. When we come back, we do a wrap-up and address some more issues as it relates to what's happening in our community.